No, well, 2021, 22, I predict that one of the major central banks in the world will close utterly and completely.
What can you reveal about your 2021 Bitcoin? A range, something?
Yeah, well, I think it's higher. It's a lot higher for 2021. We have. It's funny that the exchange between Elon Musk and Michael Saylor was that Michael Saylor said the most. Peter Schiff, of course, focused on the stupid thing that doesn't mean anything. He missed the forest for the trees. He missed the point, as he always does. Saylor said to Elon Musk, "I will share my playbook with you." That was the key phrase. In other words, Saylor is talking to CEOs all over the world and telling him how he did it, because he knows that if he gets 10, 20, 30, 40 more companies to do the same thing, that Bitcoin price is going to get to where it needs to go a lot faster, right? So it's in his own self-interest. This is game theory played out amongst multi-billionaires globally, and the big losers are the central banks. I'll make this prediction for 2021. No, well, 2021, 22, I predict that one of the major central banks in the world will close utterly and completely, and that will start a transition post-central bank. Central banks, we've outlived their usefulness. They never really were that good to begin with, but I think now we finally figured out that
they would close and transform into another entity, digital entity.
Has their own bank. If you have Bitcoin, you can do transactions with anybody without permission at any time. It's unconfiscatable. Can't censor it, and it's deflationary. I don't need a central bank. The central bank, just like we got rid of the horse and buggy when the automotive came around. Now that Bitcoin's here, we don't need central banks. They're not useful in any way. They've gone beyond their remit. Instead of being a lender of last resort, they're now the buyer of first order. The Bank of Japan owns like more than half of the Nikkei. The Swiss central bank owns a huge position in Apple Computer. Federal Reserve, I believe, buys Apple bonds, junk bonds. They buy junk bonds, and because they couldn't do it legally, they set up a special purpose vehicle to do it on the side. They just broke the law because it was convenient to break the law to buy junk bonds on the central bank's balance sheet. That's like hiring Charles Manson as a babysitter, right? Like, why would you have a central bank running your economy when there are recidivist, law-breaking, serial financial terrorists? Why would you have that? Why would you want that? What's the point of that? The sooner we get rid of this albatross, this nightmare, and Bitcoin makes it possible. Bitcoin is the vector out. It's the vector out of the central bank problem. And the central banks thought they were so smug that they were going to collude with each other all over the world and suppress the price of gold and go into negative interest rates to bail out their friends at the banks, right? Because even though the banks are insolvent, they've been insolvent. All these major banks are insolvent. They've been insolvent for 20 years. We're going to just keep floating because we get we're all getting rich playing this game. And Bitcoin basically is the silver bullet. It's the bullet to the back of the head. It's 2 taps to the back of the head. It's Tony Soprano, going to the Fed, 2 taps to the back of the head, and you're done. And that's the way it should be. We got to get rid of these central banks, and we are. In the next 24 months, we're going to go to a lot of funerals of central bankers, figuratively speaking. And this is the greatest hope. This is the greatest hope we have.
Would Max Keiser be surprised to see Bitcoin over 100,000 in 2021? Just end on that.
I tease out my prediction, and I'm feeling pressured to make my number here.
Bitcoin hitting its new record here as we're about to end 2020. Is it worthy of the title, Max Keiser?
Right. Well, I guess it was 2 years ago. I said it was going to close out 2020 at 28,000. So that looks pretty good. I haven't unveiled my 2021 prediction officially yet, but I will do so probably in the next week or so. I made my position clear. I have not yet released my prediction for 2021.
That's a yes.
Even though I was deadly accurate 2 years ago. It looks like, we're going to end this year at 28,000.
We're seeing central banks, China leading the way, the euro probably following suit, coming out with their own digital currencies. China's in the process of testing one out right now. Is that a response to protect themselves?
No, Because the currency they have now is a digital currency. The dollar, the yen, the euro. They are all basically fiat currencies, centrally controlled. They don't compete with Bitcoin. They're centrally controlled, and they are analogous to fiat money. They have nothing to do with Bitcoin, which is decentralized. It has security features that none of those centralized coins would ever have. So it doesn't compete with Bitcoin. The only way the central banks can stop the speculative attack aimed at destroying the central banks. I'm giving you some harsh reality here, but people should take this on board, because we're entering into a world post central banks here. Is the only way they can defend against this is to raise interest rates. They're not going to do that. I mean, the bet is that Jerome Powell and these other banks are not going to raise rates. That's the bet on Bitcoin right now. That's the multi-$100 trillion bet being made on Bitcoin right now, that the central banks will not raise rates. And as long as they keep lowering rates, and as long as rates keep going negative, then the Bitcoin trade is an asymmetric bet. It's a one-way bet. It's got almost virtually no top. I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars per coin or higher. Even, JP Morgan just came out with an estimate of $650,000 per Bitcoin. Citibank is estimating $300,000 per Bitcoin. I think they kind of see what's happening here. They want to get ahead of it. They want some exposure to it, but nothing's going to stop this now. The central banks, they thought they had the game completely rigged with their collusion, the global banks all working together to keep and not only to keep fiat money viable beyond its term, but to attack gold, as we know. JP Morgan, how many fines have they paid for gold manipulation? Innumerable fines. And we see that in all the big banks, the bullion banks. And they thought they had it made. They thought that they would escape. But Michael Saylor and others figured out that they've got this vulnerability. The game is on. I got into Bitcoin as part of my efforts, with Stacy going back many years now. The global insurrection against banker occupation is what we called it. We've talked about the dangers of fiat money and central banking for a number of years, and Bitcoin was obvious to me back in 2011 that this could be an escape route. And now we've got the likes of Michael Saylor, possibly Elon Musk, Paul Tudor Jones over there in his hedge fund. He's now piling on. Stan Druckenmiller, the architect of the Bank of England raid, has made positive comments on Bitcoin. Ray Dalio was a skeptic. Now he's kind of neutral. I think Ray Dalio will put 20% of his portfolio into Bitcoin in the next few months. Particularly since his performance has been pretty bad for 2020, he needs to get back in the race here. He needs some alpha. Ray needs alpha.